So I was going to make a video last night when the news broke. The obvious news that I would be talking about today is that Mike Tomlin is out as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And me, as I've been making videos about specifically the Steelers and being such a big Steeler fan, obviously I had to come on here and at least talk about it for a couple of minutes. I didn't have time to make one last night, so it is going to be posted in the morning, the day after Mike Tomlin, not fired. I'm not sure if I said fired at the beginning of the video because he did not get fired. He stepped down as the head coach of the Steelers. And I do want to share my thoughts on it, being such a big Steeler fan. And I know I said yesterday, and I still think that it was the best thing for the Steelers, just for them to part ways because of what's happened the past, decade or so without the playoff success and kind of doing the same thing over again. And but I still think that Mike Tomlin is not a bad head coach. I think whenever he does return to coaching, I know they said that he's probably taking a break this year. Whenever he returns to coaching, he's going to be a great head coach wherever he goes. And I will explain my reasoning because it's kind of weird and a lot of people don't understand that, right? Because a lot of people who aren't Steeler fans are saying this is a huge mistake. You guys are going to regret it. I disagree wholeheartedly. I think you can be a great head coach and still wear out, your time with the team that you're currently on. And I think that's just what happened because Tomlin really didn't want to change his scheme. He didn't really want to change the way he went about building a team. And the Steelers needed change. Obviously, anyone can agree that the Steelers needed major change because you can't keep going 10-7, 9-8, and losing in the wild card. That can't be the standard. And because they always talk about the standard is the standard, that can't be it. So you needed to have change, and Tomlin just didn't want to change, right? And I think that's the reason he eventually, it just got worn out. And whenever he decides to go back to coaching, if he ever does, we don't know if he will or not, it will force him to change because he can't come back and run a different team the same way he's run the Pittsburgh Steelers, the exact same way. So he's going to have to change. And the Steelers are going to have to get a guy that's different than Tomlin. So it's going to force change for both teams, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it's important, especially now, for them to part ways, and I think it was the right thing to do. I think Tomlin's a great head coach. I'm going to miss Mike Tomlin as a guy and as a leader, and because I'm 20 years old, he's been coaching the Steelers for 19 years. I do not know a Steeler team without Mike Tomlin as a head coach. This is completely uncharted territory for me as a fan. So I'm looking forward to it, but I also am a little nervous because I don't know who they're going to hire. And there's a couple question marks like, is Arthur Smith going to be back? Or and Terrell Austin? Or is the entire staff going to be gone? Because I think the staff needs to be gone. And I said that last week. Arthur Smith and Terrell Austin needed to go, and another reason Tomlin had to leave is because he wouldn't have made that change with his coordinators. He barely wanted to fire, or they barely fired Matt Canada, and he was one of the worst OCs in NFL history. So that's another reason, his just inability to change and to adapt, and now that he's gone, it's going to force him into it. But as I said, Terrell Austin and Arthur Smith both need to go, respectively, of course, but they need to leave because you can't have the highest paid defense and have them ranked 26th out of the 32 teams in the league. You can't have that happen. That's a fireable offense. In my opinion, that's a fireable offense. I'm also not the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but in my opinion. I'm looking forward to seeing who they hire. I mean, my dream pick would be Cignetti. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he'll ever leave Indiana, at least for the time being, but you never know. Maybe Marcus Freeman. I'd be okay with that. it may be Shula from the Rams, and then whoever you get there, you're going to have to pair him with a good offensive coordinator, especially if you go after a defensive coach. You're going to have to get a good OC. And I want Mike Daniel. I don't know if he'll come back as an OC, but I'd love for him to come back as our coordinator. I don't know. There's a list of coaches that I have to, think about, but this is completely uncharted territories for all of us Steeler fans, at least for a lot of us. And this is going to be one of the biggest off seasons. This is going to be the biggest off season since I've been a fan. The most important and the most exciting. And I can't wait for it. But no, I do not hate Mike Tomlin. I don't think a lot of Steeler fans do. I think we can appreciate the greatness that we had. And in the same breath also say it was time for change. So that's my opinion on it. He's going to go be great wherever he goes. And I'll be rooting for him because he was my head coach for almost a decade. Well, since I've been a fan, you know what I mean. But yeah, we'll see y'all Friday.